Hello dear friends and welcome to the GEOCOAST. Here I'm standing on the balcony of the Environmental Research Institute in University College Cork with Ray Alcorn. Hello Ray.
Hey Max, how are you? Long time no see.
So Ray is really an amazing person who's been an academic at university, and then he demonstrated how you can apply your academic knowledge to produce something useful in the real world. So Ray, tell us a few words about yourself.
Yeah, okay, so I'm Dr. Ray Alcorn. I used to be part of the university in Cork, but before that I worked commercially for a number of years in different industries and in different countries. For the longest time I worked in Australia doing full-scale offshore energy. So I returned and worked for about 8 years in University College Cork, running a research centre that's now become the MARI Centre, which is great.
Was it HMRC?
It started as HMRC, the Hydraulics and Maritime Research Centre, which a lot of people would have known. We had some of the first wave tanks in Ireland, and we did a lot of early work with the likes of Ocean Energy, Wavebob, and people like that. But this is going back.
Were you actually the person who started the centre?
Oh no, that was Tony Lewis.
Okay.
That was Tony Lewis and Brian Holmes, Jamie Murphy, and Niall O'Sullivan, and a whole bunch of technicians and people like that. So yeah, it has a long pedigree in different locations in Cork, and it's got a long track record. But it really accelerated around about the time that I came on. There was a lot of initiative from the Marine Institute and from SEAI, and there was funding made available from not only SFI but HEA to build a new building down in now the Beaufort building. So an investment from SEAI and various other groups.
So right, so the main area of your research was renewable energy, is it right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So we would have done a lot of work in wave, tidal, and later offshore wind and floating wind energy.
So after years of working at university in the research center, now you started your own company, which is running now for like 4 years?
Yeah, it's actually going to have its 5th birthday in 1 month's time. So yes, it's been going for quite some time.
So what is the name of the company?
The company's called EXCEEDENCE, and we do software for renewable energy finance.
So you'll try to exceed the excellence kind of...
Yeah, well, EXCEEDENCE is a good name. EXCEEDENCE curves in wind energy, or it's a typical kind of way of displaying resource information, but we like the name. It means exceed, excel, and to do better.
So you actually invented a new word?
Well, yeah, we changed the spelling ever so slightly. It's more like the American spelling, but it's good for the search engine optimization and various other things.
So can you tell me, like, what does your company do? What makes it unique?
Oh, what makes us unique is we have software for renewable energy finance. So at the minute in the world, the way people decide how to build projects, and in the world 300 billion euros is spent every year on new projects, and about another 100 billion spent maintaining them. The way people make financial decisions is they use Excel sheets or spreadsheets, and they build them all themselves, and they spend significant time doing that. And what we do is we replace that process with a cloud-based piece of software, so we make everything easy. I suppose it's like Sage or QuickBooks for the renewable energy world.
So basically your company is focusing on developing and maintaining this piece of software?
Yeah, and we do a lot of consultancy services and projects with it as well. So we help a lot of clients.
It's one program, you're not generating various software packages, it's one program you're focusing on?
Yeah, it's one, let's call it a platform. Because we did have one piece of software that we were focusing on that we spun out of the university with. So the software was actually initially developed in UCC, and we licensed it out of there, and then we've over 4 years since developed it. So what we've developed it to is a cloud-based platform, and that allows us to do add on lots of different features and modules. So you say it's not lots of different packages, it's one platform with different modules.
So are you then a computer programmer? Is your background in computer programming?
No, my background is in engineering. I'm an electrical engineering.
So did you employ other computer programmers, or you learned yourself how to do it?
Oh no, we employed lots of software people to do that kind of thing.
And tell me, like, so you're saying the software is for investors, yeah? So it's not for the people who are actually developing the wind farms, let's say?
No, it's for everybody. It's right along the value chain. So for you to convince an investor or a bank to give you the finance, you need to have a credible model with credible returns. So technical people have to input to it, financial people have to input to it, and then finally people making decisions have to understand what that whole thing is about. So we connect all of those people together in the chain, and we make it easier. So as I say, kind of like Sage or QuickBooks, it's like that up and down the supply chain.
But can it be used for by an Irish farmer who wants to put a couple of wind turbines in the field?
Yep, actually yes, we have a light version that can be used by a farmer if they want to look at what their financial return is. And in fact, later this year we're going to be doing a community wind project, looking at having a transparent piece of software so a community could either finance it themselves or understand their return from that project.
And who could be the investors? Are we talking about big investment banks, or are we talking about private investors?
We actually look at a mix of both. So usually in a project you get different levels of debt. So the bank would maybe be senior debt, you have maybe other levels of debt like called mezzanine debt, and then you have private investors, and that could be pension funds. So every one of those gets their return in a slightly different way, and that's what we help them understand.
Right, so you have worked in UCC for a number of years, and now you said technically you left UCC, but you're still based on the grounds of the university. What's the mechanism? Do you still have some links to university? Or?
We actually do quite a lot of work still with various researchers, not only in UCC but around Europe. So for example, we've just been working on a collaboration with Fraunhofer in Germany. So yeah, we still work with the different universities. We still very much have research and development that we have to do.
But I mean, why is your office based on the grounds of the university? Is it possible to rent an office from university?
Yes,
or how does it work?
It is. That is entirely coincidental. So very quickly on our journey, we started out in incubation space provided by the university. So that was very much a university initiative.
So that's what's called a spin-off company, yeah?
Yeah, because we're spin-off. I'll go into that in a second. Yeah. But because we were a campus company, we were offered some desk space and incubation space to help us get started. And then we moved from there. We moved to another accelerator unit, an incubation unit down beside the Beaufort building in Ringaskiddy. So we moved there.
In Portakabins?
Yeah, it was in Portakabins, but you couldn't tell that from the inside. So they were very nice offices. But we outgrew that, and we started looking for space back up here in Cork. We have a small office in Dublin, and we have a small office in Belfast. So we're looking more space here in Cork, and we looked at a number of locations, and I just happened to bump into Paul Bolger, who's the manager of this fine building, and they said they had some office space to rent commercially. So that's what we did. We rented it, and it's a nice place. You can look around, a lovely location, nice parking, and it fits with our ethos and our mission. There's charging for renewable vehicles. The building is a passive kind of building, or a very low energy building. It's lots of recycling going on. You can probably hear it right now. So it fits with what we want to do in terms of our impact and climate impact. So it fits with the company culture, and the people around us also fit with that.
So as I understand, your main business activity is developing software and cloud-based software, yeah?
Yes.
What is the reason for having 3 offices? Why do you need offices in Dublin and Belfast? Effectively you can work from your house, no?
Yes, actually most of our staff do work from home. We have offices here as well, obviously for the software team to sit. But why do we have different offices? They are virtual offices. Well, no, sorry, not virtual offices. They are hot desks. So we have in NDRC in Dublin, in St James's Gate. We have a lot of meetings in Dublin, so it's nice to have a place to go to.
Just to meet the clients?
Just to meet clients, just to call in. We still have our venture leads in NDRC, so we'd still go there and occasionally meet them. They're one of our investors, so occasionally we have to go up there to see them. So it's nice to have a hub there, and equally, it's nice to have a hub in Belfast. You can probably tell I'm originally from there. We need a UK presence. So again, we have space up there in the Catalyst building, right in the Titanic Quarter, which is a lovely space. And again, some of our investors are in the same building as that. So there's reasons. It's not very costly to keep that kind of space.
And you said you undertook some crowdfunding initiative some time ago. Yeah? Was it last year?
Yeah, it was last year. It took quite some time.
What was it for? What you were trying to raise money for? Is it to pay the salaries of your researchers, or?
Oh, we don't have any researchers, so we have
your
staff.
Developers.
Yeah, developers. developers and engineers. So that's the mix of people. We have developers, engineers, business development, sales. That's the kind of mix. So no, the crowdfunding was for part of the business plan to launch and support our cloud product and to continue its development. So we're really pushing into the offshore wind market right now. We've done a lot of work in the wave and tidal sector, which is, I suppose, where I spent a lot of my background. But we've been involved in some projects, and we've done a lot of that sector. So we need to move on to a much larger market sector. Now we've proven out what we can do.
And with crowdfunding, people who invested in you, do they get any return, or was it pure voluntarily investment trying to help the new initiative?
So in crowdfunding, we have a blog on this. If you guys want to look at our LinkedIn page, you can see the blog that we've done on crowdfunding. But there's 4 types of crowdfunding. There's like reward crowdfunding, there's charity crowdfunding. So a reward crowdfunding might be get something back, and like Kickstarter or something like that. There's debt crowdfunding, and then there's finally equity crowdfunding, and that's what we did. So basically the investors get part of our company, or they buy part of our company. So they invest in that, and the expectation or the hope is that from what I do on all our staff, we increase the value of the company, so that there will be an exit at some stage when people will get not only get their money back. Well, no, there'll not be a dividend. They'll get their money back and then some. That's the idea.
But like, is it similar then to buying shares on the stock market when effectively you own tiny part of the company?
Yeah, pretty much like buying shares in the stock market, except because we're not traded on the stock market, it's you're locked in for a longer period of time, and you don't typically get dividends from a small company.
And is the crowdfunding closed now?
Oh, it's closed. Yeah.
For example, if I wanted to invest €10,000 in you, I can't.
Give me a call.
Okay, and then like, for example, I give you some money, like then do I expect a return in 100 years time, or?
No, we would hope to be exiting somewhere between 4 and 5 years time. That's our hope. That's what we've been aiming for.
Exiting means you're going to sell the company?
That would be the most likely outcome. This would be again typical in our kind of area, and we have found that this happens quite a lot, and there's quite a lot of precedent for exactly what we do. You know, so
you're focusing on the development of this kind of investor support software for the renewable energy. But do you have any competitors around the world? Are there other people doing more or less the same thing?
That's a very good question. So we're actually doing a project now called Data Pitch, and again, you can have a look on our website about that. Where we're looking at developing the next phase of our software. But part of that was to do a big competitor analysis. And we did that, and we went out and we met a lot of these companies working in the offshore wind sector. And very interestingly, a lot of people do similar-ish kind of cloud-based software. Nobody does the financial top end that we do. So now we're looking at perhaps a white label or grey label option for our engine. Integrating into other platforms. So that's something that is, sort of brand new. You've heard it here first. It's something that we're investigating right now.
And tell me, like, where do you get money for your day-to-day expenses to pay salaries for your staff? Like, is it from the sale of the software?
Yeah, we have.
So is it successful? Like?
Yeah, we have revenue. So we've paid tax every year since we were being formed. We do quite a lot of consultancy as well, and we do a lot of projects. So we have a number of European projects running. We have projects running with the Marine Institute, SEAI, Enterprise Ireland, those kind of groups. So as I say, we have revenues from customers, and we have revenues from
So it's not only the sale of the software, like you do other jobs as well?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the time customers come to us, and we have to do some of the financial modeling for them, and then we deliver it to them in the form of giving them a software license with the reports and the models.
Would you be, for example, assisting people with their planning applications? Jerry, I mailed you yesterday.
Yeah, no, I look how I'm dressed.
Hello everybody. Hello outside world. This is...
Stop, we're not on it. I just interrupted the interview.
Yes, but we can cut it out. We can cut it out, don't worry.
You're live, Jerry. There's 2 billion people in here right now. Oh no, well, you asked earlier about what is a spin-out. one of the things that the university targets and Enterprise Ireland target is to try and extract research into the commercial world, and make
to
it
monetize
useful.
research.
To monetize research. It's a very important thing, because otherwise research ends up being papers and information, which has its value obviously, but it's good to go out there and use it to make an impact on, in this case, we make an impact on the world, on the environment, and we're creating jobs and revenue and value. And exports, we sell all around the world. So we're doing that at the minute. But what is a spin out? It is a company created from the intellectual property of the university. So we have a license, and our entire first parts of our business were based on that. And then we built the business in and around that, and we've reduced our dependence on that, I suppose. But as a spin out, the university actually owns a percentage of the company.
So did they actually physically given you a lump sum to support your
startup? No. They give us access to the intellectual property, and we have to pay. We have to pay for that. They give us a holiday on that payment, obviously, to get going in the first years, and they take a chunk of the company as well.
But
so what do they give you?
Intellectual property was in fact developed by yourself.
It was developed by Gordon Dalton and
in
HMRC, Chris O'Donoghue, and I'm just forgetting some of the names, and Michael O'Connor and a bunch of other people. So yes, it was developed through an Enterprise Ireland commercialisation fund. So at the end of that fund, we spun that technology out into the company, created the company, licensed into the company. It took quite some time to get all of that process happening. It took, I think, nearly a year to get it to go from finishing the project to getting the company going and getting the technology into the company, but it happened, and then we were able to take on some investment from NDRC, some pre-seed investment, some investment from the EU, some projects, and we had some customers waiting for us. So that's how we got started.
So as you're focusing on investment into the renewable energy sector, do you think it has more prospects than, for example, investments in oil and gas or some other shares, like people who, small investors, like, for example, you and me, who can have extra like 10,000 euro that want to buy some shares? Would you recommend investing in renewable energy?
Okay, so people who are just investors, they want to know what their return is going to be. So they want to have low risk and a return. So that's something that we can help tell them with our software. But should you invest in that? There's a growing trend towards what's called green bonds and green investment, where people are looking for what's called a double bottom line. So in other words, they want a return for the money, but they're willing to take ever so slightly less a return as long as that project is doing good. So it's reducing carbon footprint, it is it is having climate change impact. So that's what people are currently looking for. So oil and gas perhaps not so much in terms of double bottom line. And then a lot of corporates, the likes of just up the road here, Apple, Google, Intel, they have corporate social responsibility programs, and again they invest in this kind of thing. So for example, one of the biggest investors in wind in the US is Google, and they're using that to power their to power their servers and try and reduce their energy consumption. So
are they using your software or no?
No, they're not using our software. No. Not yet. We'll get there.
Ray, and tell me maybe, Ray, perhaps you can give us an insight on the projects that you've done in the past, like when you worked for university and in the private sector. Like, what were the most exciting projects in terms of renewable energy? I know that you worked in Australia and in other parts of the world.
Yeah, well, that was a very exciting project we did out there. That was a full-scale wave energy device. So I worked on that. I was the chief engineer for a while on that, and we did. We generated, I think, Australia's first power from wave energy and connected it onto the grid. So it was nice. Is
it actually functioning?
Right now, no. That project has been decommissioned.
Okay, so it's not commercially viable yet. The technology hasn't been developed to the stage that it's widely used.
No, it hasn't. We're actually working with another company called TFI Marine. So we are working very closely with them on, funnily enough, a wave energy technology, which is really theirs. We're helping them with the software part of it, obviously. And that looks like it has legs in terms of developing a wave energy technology for a more niche market, which is offshore aquaculture. And funnily enough, if you went down today to the Beaufort building, that project is under test. So it's being tested in the Lear National Test Facility on some of the rigs. So as a wave energy technology, that seems to be a trend, let's say, that maybe making them a little bit smaller and for niche markets makes it commercially viable.
So do I understand correctly that at the moment the only technology that is used in renewable energy is the wind, like using the power of wind, wind turbines?
And no. There's onshore wind, obviously, and there's photovoltaic, or PV.
What's that?
Sorry?
What's that?
Oh, solar. Solar energy.
Solar, okay.
Solar energy. So like the solar panels on the roof here. So they would be the two biggest ones. So onshore and onshore PV are the biggest at the minute. But you all know what offshore wind turbines are. So again, you've seen that. But there's also a trend in offshore wind to look at floating offshore wind, and that's something that we can do. In fact, we have some investors from the floating
I think they're doing some
wind
experiments in
They are,
Marriott now.
They are.
Jerry Murphy showed me a couple of days ago.
And there's going to be a floating wind turbine deployed on the west coast of Ireland at what is one of the wave energy test sites. So that's quite interesting. So yes, there's proven technology and there's developing technology. So there's also tidal energy that can be deployed. There's fixed tidal and floating tidal.
But it's not used yet. It's not used for commercial production.
It is. It's used in Scotland for commercial production in the north of Scotland and for various other smaller sites around the world. The biggest tidal plant in the world, I think, is La Rance in France, and it's been going for, 20-something years. So
where do you install those devices, the tidal energy? Is it installed slightly offshore?
You have to find somewhere that has a tidal stream. So with a strong.
Is it installed on the seabed? Is it mounted to the seabed?
You get, as I say, there's a couple of different types. There's ones that float on the surface, and there's ones that are installed on the seabed.
Is it the ones that's been tested in Smart Bay in Galway? Is it?
There's different ones. Smart Bay isn't really a tidal site, so a lot of the tidal testing in Ireland happens in Strangford Lough, and actually one of the biggest tests was a full-scale 1.2 megawatt device that was in Strangford Lough for I think 5, maybe longer, maybe 7 years, something like that.
And what I'm interested in, like a lot of locations around the coast, they have issues with coastal erosion, like so, especially like. Parts of the coast which are not protected by rocky shores, like formed with glacial till or sand dunes, like they're being eroded. So one way to stop the erosion would be to install some offshore wave breakers, or kind of something which is going to slow down the energy of waves before they arrive to shore.
Okay.
So what I was thinking, is it possible to combine two in one, install the tidal energy devices, which going to at the same time be part of the coastal protection measures, which going to slow down the energy of waves and tides approaching the coast? Do you think it's viable?
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. I mean, Jimmy Murphy from UCC and a number of companies that he worked with worked on some of that sort of stuff. Not tidal energy, but wave energy devices. So integrated coastal protection and energy. Because if you can absorb the energy and convert it, you've absorbed the energy, which is great. It's exactly what you want to do. So yeah, they've looked at that kind of thing and floating breakwaters and that kind of idea. It's all early. There's nothing really commercially deployed. There's tests underway in
So there's
Spain.
no technology already developed which is going to pay for itself. For example, like if you just put the artificial reef as a wave breaker, you need to spend money on concrete and materials. But like in this case, like if you put something in, you invest in putting it in, but then you get a return in terms of electricity.
So this is exactly what we do, though. So you asked earlier if we help just with the investment side of things. If you understand, our software works the whole way through from technical right through to financial. So if you have a wave energy technology, you've got to put in how it performs, what the wave resource is going to be in whatever area you're in, and then you put in all your costs, and then it's going to tell you what your financial return is. Now, I've oversimplified that, but there's about 1,000 variables that we would use. The point is, if we're working with wave energy developers, you would think they wouldn't be interested in this kind of software, but they are, because it spits out what their levelized cost is, and they can see how competitive they are. But because we have sensitivity analysis and analytics built into our software, they can start to understand why their technology isn't competitive. So often you find people will chase efficiency in their device when actually they should be chasing cost or installation or operation costs. So we help them get a better understanding of the current technology, and then we help them on their cost reduction pathway. So that's a lot of what our consultation would be. So we'd use our software, build them a model and say, if you do it this way, your costs will be X% lower. So we have a product actually with Wood Group, they're a multinational oil and gas company. It's called OptiWave for the wave energy sector. And you know, it is for exactly that purpose, to look at the costs in doing clever engineering in software. And we ran it through for one company. Our first pass, we saved 7%, or just our first pass. So that's fantastic. So we know that we can really make an impact in this sector.
And from a practical point of view, right, for example, let's imagine like I'm a farmer, I have a field near the coast, I want to put 3 wind turbines. Can you help me with getting the planning application through?
No,
that's not our
department. No,
okay.
no, we can't. We can't help in that. But part of the planning application will ask about how big is your wind turbine and things like that. So we would allow you. Well, we could show you the energy produced by different types of wind turbines and show you the return. So, for example, what you'd really want to do is put the biggest one up that you can. But what happens if your planning application says no? You can't put that big one up. Well, we can very quickly swap it out and see what the impact is.
It's quite kind of strange that like everybody talking about the fact that we need to switch to renewable energy to reduce the carbon footprint, but at the same time, I know from my work, like anybody trying to get planning application to put wind turbines in their land, they have to go through, I think, at least 2-year survey to do bird surveys and some other environmental surveys. So basically the planning application is quite long and tedious, and I think the particular person who is applying for planning application, like they have to spend on the scale of 60 to 100,000 euro per year, and they need to do this survey over a 2-year period. So from your point of view, why they make it so complicated if it's the aim of the governments to actually increase the percentage of renewable energy?
Yeah, but there is due process, and there's a number of different stakeholders involved in that. I think perhaps what you're really getting at is the system, the way it's set up, means that you're going to have to do slightly larger farms to make sure that they can pay for themselves. So you know, you couldn't spend 60,000 on a survey for one turbine. You know, so farmers used to put up, you know, 1 and 2 turbine kind of plants. I think maybe those days are limited for large things. Maybe for auto production, but anyway, this is not my area of expertise within Ireland.
So tell me, what are you working on right now?
One of the things that we're working on right now, and Annika, one of our engineers, look her up on the website, she's leading this project. It's called the Marine Energy Alliance, and what it does is it provides free consultancy and support to companies in the wave, tidal and floating wind, floating solar sectors. They're all
Why would you do it for free? You're doing it for free for the
No,
companies?
we get paid by the EU and we provide the service to the companies. So we're providing software and service to, I think this time around, 13 companies. But the reason I was going to bring it up is we're one of the Irish consultants or companies on it. UCC are also involved in it, and then there's a lot of other companies around Europe. But the biggest cohort of applicants came from Ireland, by far. So there's a lot of Irish companies now being supported through that programme, and that's giving them, that programme is designed to accelerate them from being at an early technology readiness level up to a later technology readiness level, and we're helping them get their business plan and finances and cost models ready to be scrutinised at the next level by investors and by government groups. So that's what we're helping them with. So, you know, what I used to help companies with when I worked in UCC was a lot of their technical development, and now they've all moved on from that, and they need help with their business plan and their financial stuff. And I'm glad that we, as a company, can help those companies move on.
So earlier on you said like this ongoing research into developing floating wind turbines.
Yeah.
And some tests going to be deployed off the west coast, is it?
Yeah, off the west coast of Ireland. Now, there are existing floating wind turbines in, I believe, Norway and Scotland. If you look at the water depths off the coast of Ireland, it's not really appropriate, apart from the east coast. Yeah, apart from the east coast, it's not really appropriate for fixed offshore wind turbines. So to develop out that and the further down the Atlantic corridor, you would know this, your background, the water depths are plus 50 meters plus. So that doesn't really fit with fixed bottom, but the opportunity is still there and there's a market still there. So people are looking at using floating wind turbines. And they're at a much later technology readiness level. They're almost at commercial level
So
now.
the floating platform will be anchored to the bottom?
Yeah, and there's a number of different competing technology
similar
options.
to oil rigs? No?
There are ones that are similar to oil rigs, and there's other ones that are very unique concepts, and there's even ones that have integrated wave energy on board and solar energy and other kind of things, the more bigger platforms. And in fact, I believe Gordon Dalton from UCC is working on one of those as well. So,
are you involved in any way in those?
yeah, well, we've done some financial models for floating wind, and we have some investors from the floating wind side of things. So yes, it's an exciting and interesting area for us to be involved in, and we have some expertise that we are developing. So it is the next big thing, I suppose, in offshore wind. And at the events that we've been at recently, a lot of people, including investors, are looking at this area as to where next. Let me tell you a global trend. If you look at one of the references we use would be REN 21. So they look at the renewable energy picture globally, and also the International Energy Agency. Give you a good overview of what's happening year on year. Although there's a lot of renewables and new renewables being developed, we are still falling way short of our climate targets, and we're still falling way short of our renewable project. We need to really double what we're doing. And again, I talk to a lot of people in the financial sector, so there's money out there waiting to go. The process at the minute is not allowing enough to happen. The financial process that we are involved in, we can speed that up, and then kind of what you said, the planning process as well. So we need to accelerate that entire timeline to meet these kind of targets. But as I say, there's money out there to build it, and there's projects out there that can take part in it. So it's making it happen faster, and that's what we want to do. We are faster with fewer resources and more efficiently.
Okay, right. So you said that you're developing a software which you sell online, so it's a cloud-based software. Yeah. So I guess it's used by people all around the world, from different countries.
Yeah.
And so where most of the customers come from? Is it Europe or US or Australia?
Our first customers were in Australia. Then we have customers from the UK and Ireland and Europe, and I don't think we have any customers in the US. We have some trials in the US, but I don't think we have any customers in the US right now.
Does it mean they're not actually developing this sector and more focusing on oil and gas?
No, they are developing
the sector. Their own people who do the same thing as you.
So just last week, no, actually just this week, this is Thursday, just on Monday we did a license of OptiWave, our software with Wood Group, to help an Irish company access the US market. So yes, we're starting to get into the US market, and we have some marketing support from Enterprise Ireland based out of Texas right now. So we're looking at it, okay? So, and there is development happening in the States, maybe not just as accelerated as it is in Europe. Yeah, but that's a general comment, it's difficult to say.
Okay, right. Thanks very much for this interesting conversation. And
no problem.
Wish you best of luck with your enterprise.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time out to come and talk to me. I appreciate it.